The story begins with a quiet, winding road, cutting through an endless expanse of towering pines, their branches swaying gently in the breeze as if whispering secrets to those who pass beneath. A faded wooden sign, its paint peeling and letters barely legible, reads, "Welcome to Camp Whispering Pines, where memories are made." The irony of those words won't be clear until later. A rickety bus groans to a halt in front of the camp's entrance, its doors creaking open to release a group of excited children, their laughter cutting through the stillness of the forest. They spill out onto the gravel, lugging backpacks and sleeping bags, already buzzing with the thrill of summer freedom. Among them are a few who will soon become central to the unfolding horror: Emily, a quiet girl who clutches a well-worn stuffed rabbit; Liam, the adventurous boy who notices too much; and Sophia, sharp-eyed and curious, already scanning the camp with an uneasy gaze. Standing at the entrance is Mr. Hargrove, the head counselor, a man with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He greets them with practiced enthusiasm, his voice too loud, too cheerful, as if trying to drown out the oppressive silence of the woods around them. The other counselors, college students here for a summer job, usher the kids toward the cabins, their own expressions flickering between boredom and something else, something tense. As the campers settle in, a few unsettling details emerge. The cabins smell of mildew and aged wood, the bunks creaking under the slightest weight. The windows rattle when the wind picks up, and some of the kids swear they hear something else beneath the sound. A faint, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming against glass. At dinner in the mess hall, the older campers exchange glances when they think the counselors aren't looking. There are stories, they murmur, rumors about this place. A boy named Thomas went missing years ago. Another group vanished in the 80s. No one ever found them. Liam, ever the skeptic, scoffs at the tales, until later that night, when he looks out the cabin window and sees a shadow standing just beyond the tree line. It doesn't move. It doesn't breathe. It just watches. By morning, the strange unease has settled over the camp like a fog, but it's only the beginning. The sun had barely set when the forest swallowed the last remnants of daylight, plunging Camp Whispering Pines into a darkness that felt heavier than it should. The campfire, meant to be cheerful, a place for songs and marshmallows, had burned low, its embers hissing like a warning. The counselors hurried the campers back to their cabins, their laughter a little too forced, their good nights a little too quick. Inside cabin 3, the kids whispered under their blankets, trading ghost stories that were supposed to be silly, fun, just something to make the dark feel less vast. But then, beneath their giggles, came another sound. A rustling. Not the wind. Not an animal. Something moving just outside the window. Liam sat up, his breath fogging the cold glass as he pressed his face against it. The moon cast long skeletal shadows across the ground, stretching the trees into twisted shapes. And there, between the pines, a figure. Tall, too tall, standing perfectly still, watching. He jerked back, heart hammering. "Did you guys see that?" The others teased him at first. "You're just freaking yourself out," until the noises started in earnest. A slow, deliberate scratching along the cabin wall. A whisper, so faint it could have been imagination, except 5 kids heard it at the same time. "Come out." Then, silence. The kind that rings in your ears. When the counselors came running at the sound of screams, their flashlights cut through the dark like blades, revealing nothing but trampled grass and a single, child-sized handprint pressed into the cabin's fogged-up window. By morning, no one wanted to talk about it, but they all knew something had been out there, and it was waiting. Morning light filtered through the dusty cabin windows, pale and thin, as if even the sun was reluctant to touch camp-whispering pines. The children stirred, shaking off the restless sleep that had clung to them after the strange noises of the night before. But as they rubbed their eyes and stretched, one bunk remained perfectly still. Emily's bed was empty. Not just empty, wrong. Her blankets were twisted into tight, frantic coils as if she had thrashed in her sleep before vanishing. Her stuffed rabbit, the one she never went anywhere without, lay face down on the floor, its button eyes staring at nothing. The worst part? Her flashlight was gone. When they found it outside, its beam was still on, casting a weak yellow glow toward the tree line, as though pointing the way. The counselors tried to stay calm. "She probably just wandered off," Mr. Hargrove said, but his voice was too tight, his smile too stiff. A search party formed, calling Emily's name through the trees, their voices swallowed by the oppressive quiet of the forest. Branches snagged at their clothes like grasping fingers. Then, one of the younger campers shrieked. Hanging from a low tree branch was Emily's hair ribbon, fluttering in the breeze. It was damp, as if soaked in dew, or something else, and just beyond it, pressed into the soft earth, were footprints, small, bare, and leading deeper into the woods. No one said what they were all thinking. Emily hadn't been taken. She had walked. The camp was quieter now, the usual shouts and laughter replaced by hushed conversations and nervous glances. Emily's disappearance had carved a hollow space among them, and no amount of forced games or cheerful campfire songs could fill it. Sophia sat on the creaky floorboards of cabin 3, running her fingers along a loose plank she'd discovered under Emily's bunk, the one no one else had thought to check. A soft click as the wood gave way. Inside, tucked beneath decades of dust and dead insects, was a small leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. The name on the first page sent a chill down her spine. Thomas Whitaker. Summer of 1987. The handwriting started neat. The excited scribbles of a boy thrilled to be at camp. But as she flipped further, the letters grew jagged, frantic. "They say not to go into the woods after dark, but last night I heard them singing. It wasn't the counselors. It wasn't the other kids. It sounded like us, but wrong." A few pages later, the entries grew darker. "I see them watching now. They stand between the trees just far enough that you can't be sure they're really there. But they are. They're always there." Then, near the end, a single sentence that made Sophia's breath catch. "There's a door out there, and I think it's hungry." The final page was torn, stained with something dark, and in the margin, barely visible, were two words that hadn't been there before. Fresh ink on old paper, as if written just for her. "Find us." The campfire that night was a hollow ritual. Flames licked at the damp wood, their light flickering across the faces of the remaining campers, faces now drawn tight with fear. Liam sat apart from the others, his knees pulled to his chest, staring into the trees where he'd last seen the shadow. The counselors kept glancing at their watches, counting heads, their reassurances falling flat. "We'll find Emily. The police are coming tomorrow." But Liam wasn't listening, because the whispering had started again. Not from the woods this time, from inside the cabin. He bolted upright, shaking Jake awake. "Do you hear that?" A hush. Then, "Liam!" A child's voice, sing-song and familiar. Emily's. He shouldn't have followed it. But terror and guilt propelled him forward, past Jake's groggy protests, past the creaking screen door, into the moonlit clearing where his sneakers sank into dewy grass. The voice led him onward, weaving between trees, until the camp's lights vanished behind him. Then, silence. Dawn broke cold and gray. They found Liam's shoes first, placed neatly at the forest's edge, laces untied, as if he'd stepped out of them. Then the trail, small bare footprints, pacing in circles before marching straight into the pines, deeper than Emily's had gone, and on a nearby trunk, carved into the bark with something sharp. "They want us to sing." The camp library was a forgotten room, its shelves sagging under the weight of mildewed books and decades of neglect. Dust motes swirled in the slanted afternoon light as Sophia and Jake pulled down a crumbling box labeled "Archives Restricted." Inside, brittle newspaper clippings slid into their hands like whispered confessions. The articles all told the same story in different words: children disappearing without a trace, always near the solstice, always after reporting strange voices in the woods. But it was the faded photocopy of a handwritten letter that made Sophia's hands shake. To the new caretaker, do not interfere when the singing starts. Do not follow them. The children who are taken do not come back. But if you try to stop it, none of you will leave at all. They were here long before us. Jake's face drained of color. Hargrove, like our counselor. Outside, thunder rumbled. The sky darkened too fast, too deep, as if the forest itself disapproved of their discovery. And beneath the scent of rain and pine, Sophia caught the faintest whiff of something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long on a grave. The last clipping was a fragment, its edges burned. Survivors reported seeing their lost companions standing beyond the stone arch, smiling, urging them to cross. Those who stepped through were never... The rest was ash. The air had grown thick with the scent of damp earth and something older, something that didn't belong in the world of daylight and reason. The remaining campers huddled in the mess hall, the counselors long gone, their abandoned walkie-talkies hissing static like the forest itself was laughing at them. Outside, the trees swayed without wind, their branches clawing at the windows as if begging to be let in. Sophia clutched Thomas's journal, its pages now warm against her skin, as though alive. The last entry burned in her mind. There's a door out there, and I think it's hungry. Then, the singing began. Not from one direction, but from everywhere. Soft at first, a melody just familiar enough to prick at memory. A nursery rhyme, a campfire song, number. It was their own voices, Emily's, Liam's, but warped, stretched thin like tape left too long in the sun. Jake grabbed her arm. We can't go out there. But the music coiled around them, sweet and rotting, and Sophia's legs moved on their own. The forest opened for them, a path of broken twigs and crushed ferns leading deeper than any trail should go. The trees grew denser, their trunks knotted into shapes that almost looked human, bent backs, outstretched arms. And then, in a clearing that shouldn't exist, it rose from the earth, the doorway. A stone arch, its surface carved with symbols that hurt to look at, pulsing like a heartbeat. Beyond it, not darkness, but a wrong kind of light, gold and green and sickly sweet. And standing just inside, haloed by that impossible glow, were Emily and Liam. They smiled, not the relieved grins of rescued children, the wide, wet smiles of things that had never been human. "You're late," Emily giggled, her voice bubbling like creek water over bones. Behind them, shadows moved. Dozens, hundreds, all watching, all waiting. Sophia's foot lifted. The ground sighed beneath her, and the doorway breathed. The world beyond the archway was not a place. It was a hunger. Sophia felt it the moment she crossed the threshold, the air thickening like syrup in her lungs. The light here was wrong, a sickly gold-green glow that clung to everything, making the trees seem both too close and impossibly far away. And the singing, it wasn't just around her now, it was inside her, threading through her veins, her thoughts, until she couldn't remember if the voice had ever been hers to begin with. Emily and Liam stood before her, their faces stretched into grins that showed too many teeth. Their eyes were black pools, reflecting nothing. "We've been waiting," Liam said, his voice harmonizing with something unseen. Behind them, the other children emerged from the trees, dozens of them, their clothes from different decades, their skin too pale, their movements too smooth. Some wore smiles, some had no mouths at all. Sophia tried to step back, but the archway was gone. The forest had sealed shut behind her. Jake's hand tightened around hers. When had he followed? But his grip was changing, his fingers elongating, his nails sharpening into claws. His mouth opened, and the singing poured out, no longer words but a sound like wind through hollow bones. "Don't you want to stay?" Emily whispered, pressing her cold forehead against Sophia's. And then Sophia felt it, the melody unspooling in her own throat. Her last human thought was of the journal's final words, "Find us." And now she had. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.